Tiger Mouse is a new tank available in an event. Now, whether that's worth it, we'll have a look at later, but first, is the Tiger Mouse actually a good vehicle? Is it even worth getting if it comes back into the shop at some point for a decent price? Now, before we go into the stats and the armor, this is how I would equip it. Now, how do you get the Tiger Mouse? It is part of the Blitzfest event, where you can go to the Bisonte for free. I mean, it looks like I've almost completed it, but the Bisonte is really expensive back here, and you need about 150 wins to obtain the Bisonte. You could also obviously pay your way there with gold, and then at the bottom here, we got the purple, which is the way to go to the Tiger Mouse. Now, can you play for this? Can you pay for this? Well, you have to go into the shop and buy gold there, and then you can obtain the Tiger Mouse right here. So I'm gonna have to pay over $100 worth of gold to get the Tiger Mouse. Now, is it worth that? No. No tank is. The stats of the Tiger Mouse start off really well with a DPM of over 2,800, that being 20% more than the Moistion and the VK4502B. So, starts off really well. The penetration is a little bit lower for the standard round and a little bit higher for the premium round. So, overall, the firepower of the Tiger Mouse is better than those of the vehicles already in game. We go to the weapon handling, and that is just simply worse. Aim time of 2.9 seconds at dispersion 0.35. That's not accurate, but that's not what you expect from a vehicle like this anyway. However, it is worse than that of the other vehicles. 7 degrees of gun depression, 1 degree worse than the Moiskin and the VK. However, some of these vehicles really struggle with the gun depression because it doesn't work over the front of the tank, it only works over the side of the tank, so be aware of that as well. And the mobility is German super heavy awful. It's pretty much the same as the VK, however, the Traverse is even worse at 15 degrees, so this isn't going to get anywhere anytime soon. And I've also put in the Object 1052 here, which does compare still very favorably to the Tiger Mouse. It turns faster as well. And it does even have 8 degrees of gun depression as well. And it has more mobility. So, in general, this vehicle is a better version of the VK4502 in terms of the gun. However, the armor is, of course, mouse-like because it's a mouse turret, or a Moiskin turret, I think. So, you can pen the front plate right here with tier 9 and tier 10 premium rounds. Even on some standard rounds will go straight through the front right here. And angling this is pretty difficult, so you can get penned through the turret by the majority of tier 9 and tier 10 premium rounds. Of course, against tier 8, you're going to do really well. The lower plate's a weak spot, as it is on any other tank in the game that isn't the Object 2 version 4 at this point. And the sides, well, they're very thick, but they're also curved inwards, so if you turn the turret to the sides, those once again get weaker. However, they're also sloped so well that if you turn them, they're going to start getting weaker at quite the aggressive of an angle. Like, you have to pretty much be sideways here to get this down to a level where you can actually pin it. So it is very well sloped. However, the main strength of this vehicle is side scraping, because if you look at it, it's got the side skirts and it's got 130 millimeters of armor even down here below the tracks. So this thing in a side scraping position is going to be unbeatable. However, obviously, you can still pen the turret there anyway. So it is a well-armored German, super heavy. Does it bring anything to the game that hasn't been there before? Absolutely not. But does it play well in battle? Let's find out. Now we start off on Faust, and with me going to a quite unusual spot with a vehicle like this. Well, there's a very simple explanation for that, and I don't like this type of tank, and I'm just going to play it however I want. However, the thing is, I still want to take control of this map. Now, this is a press account I accidentally forgot that I left Supremacy on, which is a bit unfortunate. But anyway, now, the Tiger Mouse, it does go okay. I mean, 23 kilometers an hour isn't really fast, but it is what you expect from a super heavy, and which is why I do not like this type of vehicle whatsoever. But you have to like it, right, to play a vehicle like this. There's no point in buying this vehicle if you've never played the VK4502, because that's what this is. This is an improvement upon the Moiskin and the VK4502. If you've never played either of those vehicles, you shouldn't even consider getting this vehicle at all if it was in the shop for a decent price and not currently for whatever it is now. So you should not even consider it if you haven't played and enjoyed those vehicles already. That's my review of this vehicle. If you don't enjoy those two, you're never gonna enjoy this one, because all it is a slower traversing, upgunned, albeit lower alpha damage, higher DPM version of those tanks. It doesn't have anything outstandingly special that those tanks don't have as well. So what I'm doing here, obviously I'm going to try to take position, I'm going to try to take space. Would those guys over there have died if I was over there? Yes. So that's not about the team, that's just about them being terrible, because here we have a 3v3, we got the Scepter, we got the Astron Rex, and we got the Arctiga to deal with, the HWK-30, which I hoped to find on this side as well, given I have a tank destroyer and a medium, because that's the thing, I'm on this side of the map because I want to find out what the tank can do and what it does, right? Because if you play every tank, this is a recommendation I have to everyone, never play a tank by the book in the first couple of battles. You always want to find out what the tank can't do first, right? And in this case, this vehicle can't go anywhere on the map that it's not going to be on because it's incredibly slow. Now here's the Astron Rex, who bounces off the rear somehow. Now, it does have a very thick turret. The armor on this thing is very good, especially also with the side skirts. That is what this thing is going to work at. And that is why, ideally, you put this vehicle in a side-scraping position, right? You're still going to have to move back and forth. You can't really do that too well because it's so slow, but you still want to keep the vehicle moving at all times. And now they have 3 caps. There's no way for me to take that anyway. That's another disadvantage of Super Heavies, that I would never play them in Supremacy if I was sane, because Supremacy is a medium tank mode. To take the cap circles and run around. If you're in a vehicle like this, just like that, side scrape, side scrape, side scrape, right? And you can't take capture circles quickly. It's a 3v3, but they have 3 cap circles because we had a sufficient amount of enemies over there, right? But they didn't achieve anything. So what you can see here is that this vehicle in frontal combat, even against the medium like an Astron Rex, it is gonna do really well. However, the tank obviously struggles with the same thing that every other single Super Heavy in the entire game struggles with, and that is maintaining map control, because if you can't go anywhere, you can't take any space, and if you can't take any space, the enemy is going to take that space for you, and that's Supremacy. I mean, it would have been sort of decent to easy to win that game if it wouldn't have been Supremacy, but yeah, I turned it off for this battle. I think I played 4 battles in the Tiger Mouse, and that's all I want to play in a vehicle like this anyway. But generally, once again, if you enjoy the Moisture, if you enjoy the VK4502, this might be a tank for you once it comes in the shop for real. Currency, let's say 15,000 gold. That's probably a decent price for this vehicle. But if you haven't played those other vehicles, and if you don't enjoy those other vehicles, you're never going to enjoy this one, because it is a very specific niche vehicle that also sort of requires a very specific niche playstyle. And what I'm doing in this battle, obviously I'm going to overpeak. Look at that. I'm just going to completely overpeak because I want to find out how much randomness does this armor hold. I talked about it in the Type 63 video as well, is if you play a new heavy tank, I definitely recommend playing badly for 3 or 4 battles at the start and overpeaking, because that way you can find out very easily, very quickly, how much is the armor worth. Right? You don't even need to look at the armor numbers in the garage or an armor inspector. Just overpeak a couple of times and you'll very quickly find out if the armor is actually worth anything, and if you're gonna get penned all the time, or if people are gonna bounce, right? You're gonna learn a lot by simply practicing it and then learning from it, right? Because if you do it wrong on purpose and you figure out, okay, this works, this doesn't work, you can continue to do it, right? Because right now, I know there's the Arctiga 88 there, but I figured out this thing has very good armor. I can risk the peak on the SU and have a 50% chance of the Arctiga not even penning me, right? And with 2,500 hit points, I can allow myself that for now. Obviously, 1,200 hit points. This is sort of the point we need to be careful, but I've traded half my hit points for over 2,000 damage already, so I've made massively positive trades here. And now what I'm going to do, I know that Tortoise is very busy with other tanks as well, and I can stay and aim for that shot. I also have the side armor, so I'm at an angle where the Tortoise might not pen me entirely, and I also shoot at this roof here. So I'm gonna bounce off. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go forward once again, because I know the Tortoise is very busy with other enemies, and he's very unlikely to actually try and aim at me, and I know the Chisei is trying to run away, so I'm gonna try to get a shot right here with this terrible mobility. That's the thing that these vehicles need a lot more than other tanks. They need a lot more positional planning. Obviously, with the medium tank, you need to be a lot more aware of the enemies and where they are. But in this vehicle, that is also very important. However, it is a lot more important to pre-position yourself in your own mind, because you can't go to a position very quickly. So you have to be very aware of where are you going to be in a minute? Where can you be in a minute to sort of look for where you can go? Because otherwise, you're just going to stay stuck in a corner, and that's bad. Because in a medium tank, you can, if it happens, run away from 3 enemy tanks. But in this thing, you can't do that whatsoever. So you need maximum positional awareness in this vehicle. And it's not really entertaining to play, in my opinion. Like, this is a vehicle that you don't really play for fun. It's a vehicle that you play for stats or XP or whatever your goal is, because of its absolute abhorrent mobility. I mean, I'm doing 15 kilometers, 13 kilometers an hour uphill right here, and that is not a very enjoyable feeling. It is a very stationary vehicle that plays in one position, and essentially relies on the fact that battles are going to be slow, and that battles will essentially not have too much pace to it, because while you do have a great DPM with this vehicle, that is the thing. This thing has great DPM, so you don't struggle as much with battle time as you would with the VK45 that has like 2200 DPM. So you're not going to struggle as much with it. But because you're so slow, you're going to take a minute to even get into battle. And if by a minute half of your team is dead, you can't do anything about it. So this is a vehicle that benefits from slow battles. If you play it, you also want to slow down the battle by yourself as well. But as you've seen here, essentially, if you play it the same as the VK, you're going to have a vehicle that performs better than those other vehicles. But is it worth current money? Hell no, it's not.